One of the classic stories of delivery in my own personal experience over the time I've been doing this was the whole question of improving railway performance in Britain when I was working for Tony Blair in the first part of the first few years of the 21st century. Railway performance when we set the original delivery unit up in 2001 was very low. About 1 train in 5 was seriously late. Performance was really poor. We got on the case working with the Department for Transport and began to look at the data. To their credit, they did have good data, so they could at least tell you how often trains were late, but they weren't doing anything to improve performance significantly. And with only 80% of trains arriving on time, you can imagine that 20% of the time being seriously late is very bad, given that every 1% is about 1 million passenger journeys. So lots of complaints. We went through the data monthly. We could see various challenges, but the most obvious one was the challenge in October. Now, one of the things about delivery is, if you're in a delivery unit, you're not an expert, but the people in the relevant government department are experts. So you go to them and you ask questions and you use what I call learned naivety. So you go along to the Department for Transport and say, we've been looking at the data and we've seen that in October, performance is worse than any other month by a significant amount. What happens in October? They go, well, surely you know. And we say, no, we don't know. They say, well, all the leaves fall off the trees. And so, yeah, we know all the leaves fall off the trees. That we do know. What we don't know is why that takes you by surprise. You must know they're going to fall. They fall every October. They've fallen every October since before there were human beings. So why is it that every October the leaves fall on the railway lines and you go, oh my God, the leaves have fallen on the railway lines and all the trains are late? What could you do about that? Don't you need a plan? And they said, well, how could we have a plan for October? And we said, well, the National Health Service has a plan for winter. I don't see why you can't have a plan for autumn. And they say, well, what would be in the plan? We say, well, let's do international benchmarking for beginners. Are there any other countries in the world where the leaves fall off the trees in autumn? They go, yes, of course there are. We go, are there any other countries in the world where the leaves fall off the trees in autumn and the performance of the railways does not get worse? They say, yes, there are. Canada. We say, how do they do it in Canada? They say they cut down all the trees near the railway lines so that no leaves fall on the railway lines. And we say, yeah, well, Canada's a big country with only 30-odd million people. We're a small, crowded island with a strong, rightly strong environmental lobby, so you can't cut down all the trees near the British rail lines. So then we ask the most difficult benchmarking question, which is, are there any other countries in the world where the leaves fall off the trees in the autumn and where performance of the railways stays good through the autumn and where they don't cut the trees down next to the railway lines? They say that's a really difficult question. We say we agree. They say we'll come back in a week and see and let you know. They come back in a week, they say Poland. We say, how do they manage to do that in Poland? They say they run a machine around the track in September, all the miles of all the Polish railways, and the machine puts resin on the railways. Then they tell the drivers of the trains that they put resin which will counteract the slipperiness of the wet leaves in October. And so the drivers are confident enough to drive as fast as they would do normally because the resin will counteract the wet leaves. We say, buy the Polish machine. That's what we mean by a plan for autumn. They buy the Polish machine. It's now, of course, well past October, but a long time till the following October. We wait all the way through the year for the October data of the next year to see the benefits of the Polish machine, which is going to run around all 19,000 miles of British rail track and hopefully solve this problem. October comes along. We look at the data. It's worse than ever. We say, what happened? They say there was a big storm on the 18th of October and 40% of all the leaves in the country fell in a single night. We wonder how they know that, but we don't follow that line of argument. We say, that wasn't the whole story though, was it? And they say, no, it wasn't. We say, what happened to the Polish machine? They say, well, we did buy it. And we say, did you run it around the track? And they say, yes, we did. We said, so why didn't it work? They say, we had it the wrong way around. So we couldn't then tell the drivers because they hadn't actually put the resin on the tracks properly. Now, if you're running a delivery unit, at this moment, you could be tearing your hair out, yelling at people and saying the Prime Minister will be incandescent and all those things, but we don't do that. We say, how fascinating. How did you get that wrong? They explain. We say, next year, get it the right way round. And next year, they do get it the right way round. And if you look at the data for British rail performance, between 2003 and 2013, it got better every single year through October. By a few years on, the October performance was nearly matching all the other performances. It took a while to get to the solution. We were persistent, we were patient, we didn't lose our tempers, we did get a solution, and we did see railway performance improve for the following decade. Why am I going through all this? Because problem solving is about working away until you get to an answer that works, and not being over frustrated if people make mistakes on the way. The time for frustration is if nobody's even trying to do anything about it. So this is a wonderful story of how the Department for Transport solved the problem of leaves on the line. And anybody who's ever had anything to do with Britain knows that the most common excuse for being late for work is leaves on the line. It goes back to a comedy program in the 70s. And oddly, leaves on the line works as an excuse at any time of year, but actually originates with this problem of the wet leaves in October. We solved it.